At a busy U.S. airbase, a calm morning suddenly shifted into a high-alert situation as warning sirens echoed sharply through the air. The blaring signal served as a direct call for on-duty fighter pilots to mobilize instantly. One F-16 Fighting Falcon pilot, who had just completed a standard mission briefing, leapt from his seat and sprinted toward the gear room. His actions were sharp and rehearsed. There was no time for hesitation. He swiftly donned his G-suit, flight helmet, and communications equipment while receiving rapid updates from mission controllers. Within seconds, without exchanging many words, he dashed out of the building and ran straight toward the flight line where his aircraft awaited. The morning wind whipped against his face as he raced past open hangars and busy ground vehicles. In the distance, his F-16 jet stood primed, fully fueled, weapons mounted, and its systems already activated by ground crews. His footsteps pounded heavily against the concrete, underscoring the urgency and intensity of the moment. Though personnel all around were moving quickly, the pilot's focus narrowed to one objective: the fighter jet that now stood like a poised predator ready for war. There was no room for distraction, only purpose and precision guided his every stride. With breath growing heavier, the pilot reached his aircraft stationed near the far edge of the apron. Two ground crew members, clad in safety vests and headsets, waited by the jet with a readiness report. The engine was warming up, avionics were green across the board, and the weapons were safely armed. Wasting no time, the pilot climbed the small ladder, gripping the fuselage with one hand while steadying his helmet with the other. He slipped into the narrow, high-tech cockpit, quickly adjusted the seat, and strapped himself in with practiced speed. Every motion was efficient, a result of years of drills and real-world deployments. Inside the cockpit, the atmosphere shifted completely. The noise outside dulled into a muted hum, replaced by the electronic tones and digital glow of the aircraft's instruments. The pilot began activating systems. Avionics lit up, fuel pressure was optimal, GPS navigation calibrated, and weapons interfaces came online. The head-up display, HUD, illuminated with vital data: altitude, heading, wind vectors. He toggled on the internal comms system and began receiving brief but intense instructions from the air control center. Despite the building urgency, his pulse remained steady. This was the environment he knew best: fast, focused, and full of consequence. Outside the jet, a burst of heat erupted from the engine's rear as the powerful Pratt & Whitney F-100PW229 roared to life. Ground crews signaled all systems were go, and the pilot responded with a sharp hand gesture. He pressed the canopy switch, sealing the cockpit with a hiss. The sun filtered through the transparent canopy, casting reflections across the cockpit's panels. From inside, the outside world seemed distant, as though viewed from within a war capsule designed for dominance. He adjusted his gloves, shifted slightly in his seat, and tightened his grip on the throttle. The countdown to launch had begun. With all systems running and radio contact established, the pilot received clearance to taxi. Applying gentle pressure to the foot pedals and guiding the throttle with his right hand, he maneuvered the jet out of the apron. The rubber tires hummed over the concrete surface while his eyes scanned the indicators and flight path ahead. The F-16, known for its precision handling and unmatched agility, rolled forward like a caged hawk about to be released. He understood the stakes every second was critical, and any misstep could jeopardize the mission. The intercept was already underway the moment his wheels started moving. The jet advanced steadily along the taxiway, following the yellow guideline toward the end of the runway. Support vehicles along the path pulled aside, acknowledging the fighter's urgent priority. From behind his helmet visor, the pilot monitored throttle control, taxi speed, and command tower instructions. He remained composed despite the growing cascade of tactical data being relayed through his headset. Even in this low-speed motion, each movement was deliberate, calibrated for precision. His radar systems slowly began syncing, preparing to identify and track hostile aerial elements the moment wheels left the ground. Arriving at the edge of the runway, the pilot brought the aircraft to a stop to align the nose precisely for takeoff. The voice from the tower came through clearly, authorization granted for immediate departure under emergency protocol. He set the throttle to idle briefly, then pushed it gradually into full afterburner. A thunderous boom resonated behind him as fire erupted from the engine's tail, generating full combat thrust. The cockpit vibrated as the cabin temperature climbed. His heart rate surged slightly, but he remained locked in, eyes forward, mentally counting down before releasing the brakes. Once the brakes disengaged, the F-16 rocketed forward, its acceleration nothing short of violent. The afterburner's full power slammed him against the seat as the jet devoured the runway beneath. Within seconds, the aircraft reached over 250 knots. The world outside blurred from the sheer speed as he focused entirely on keeping the aircraft aligned and stable. G-forces pressed against him, but years of conditioning took over. He pulled back gently on the stick, the nose lifted, and the fighter lifted cleanly into the sky, leaving the runway and all safety behind in a matter of seconds. As soon as the wheels left the ground, the pilot retracted the landing gear and adjusted the climb angle. Altitude rose rapidly. Within a minute, the F-16 reached medium altitude and began orienting toward the intercept vector. Inside the cockpit, digital readouts confirmed a speed beyond 600 knots. Navigation systems auto-aligned to the intercept course provided by Mission Control. The pilot reviewed his armament. AIM-120 AMRAAMs were armed. Radar was sweeping a wide arc, and the targeting pod began scanning. He switched the system to full combat mode, ready for any confrontation. Orders from command directed the F-16 toward a sector where enemy aircraft had been detected by long-range defense radar. The pilot banked hard northeast, following an optimized intercept path. On his radar screen, unidentified airborne contacts appeared within 50 nautical miles. He checked in with nearby fighters, confirming that he was the sole asset pursuing these targets. In the relative silence of his cockpit, only the audio feed and the HUD data occupied his senses. Every second brought him closer to potential enemy engagement. The F-16 soared through open skies, slicing through the atmosphere with violent speed. The pilot adjusted altitude to maintain optimal intercept positioning. HUD vectors indicated the likely trajectory of the targets. Outside, high-altitude winds battered the airframe, but the aircraft remained steady, its aerodynamic frame built to thrive in such conditions. Enlarging his radar screen, the pilot switched to active tracking. Two unknown aircraft appeared, not responding to identification protocols. They were now only 30 nautical miles out. The pilot edged the throttle higher, positioning himself for offensive advantage, but awaited fire clearance. Above the clouds, the tension spiked. The enemy aircraft maneuvered suspiciously, drifting toward restricted U.S. airspace. The pilot began targeting procedures, locking onto one aircraft while keeping the other in his periphery. The Sidewinder and AMRAAM missiles were live and ready to deploy. But the pilot knew the power he held, and the danger of using it too hastily. Every move now carried diplomatic weight. He maintained a tactical posture, locked in pursuit, while monitoring for signs of hostile intent. His fingers hovered near the trigger but never twitched. He awaited final confirmation. Moments later, radar feedback confirmed that the aircraft were not friendly. However, they had not yet shown overt aggression. The pilot executed a sharp intercept maneuver, cutting across their path and forcing them to acknowledge his presence. Radio chatter confirmed his authority to conduct a non-lethal intercept. The F-16 shifted into a shadowing position behind the targets. The pilot monitored for evasive or hostile movements, each second critical. The standoff was now a high-speed chess match, played across miles of sky. Suddenly, the unknown aircraft veered off course. They began retreating from restricted airspace, their sudden maneuver confirming awareness of U.S. interception. The F-16 pilot tailed them closely, ensuring they didn't double back. His instruments recorded every move, documenting the retreat. Though the threat was lessening, the pilot maintained combat readiness. He monitored their altitude and distance, maintaining a safe firing range. The pressure remained, but he knew deterrence was the goal, not destruction. With visual confirmation that the intruders were exiting the restricted zone, the pilot received fresh instructions: no weapons release. The mission's objective was clear: demonstrate aerial dominance, not escalate. The F-16 pulled alongside the nearest enemy aircraft, signaling its continued presence. This close-range position served as a final warning. Any misstep would invite overwhelming force. The message was received. The foreign jets continued retreating. No missiles were launched, but the mission was undeniably a success. Once the enemy aircraft had fully exited U.S.-controlled airspace, the pilot reduced speed and turned back toward base. He checked in with command to report mission status and await further orders. The skies now seemed calm, but the adrenaline from the high-stakes intercept still lingered. Even with the threat gone, his focus did not waver. System checks confirmed no damage, and fuel levels were sufficient for return. The mission was nearly complete, but not over until the wheels touched the runway. During the return flight, the pilot continued scanning the skies, ensuring no secondary threats emerged. All systems reported green, weaponry remained primed, and the radar screen stayed clear. Fatigue started to creep in, but he remained alert. He recorded voice memos, summarizing the intercept for post-mission analysis. In his mind, he replayed each maneuver, anticipating questions during the debrief. One thing was certain: he had carried out his duty with precision and resolve under pressure. As the airbase runway came into view, the pilot contacted the tower for landing clearance and began his descent approach. The F-16 glided down with practiced ease. Upon touchdown, the jet's wheels screeched slightly, slowing across the runway until the aircraft rolled to a smooth stop. He opened the canopy, greeted by ground crews ready to assist. Though outwardly calm, everyone recognized the intensity of the mission he had just completed. Stepping down from the cockpit, the pilot walked confidently across the tarmac, a silent guardian of the skies, returning from battle without a single shot fired.